Disaster recovery is an important aspect of any infrastructure or application you are building if it is critical. We need to ensure that our application keeps on working even if there is a disaster. So let's first focus on what is disaster and we'll see what methods we have to mitigate these things. This can be applied across infrastructure. It could be in any type of situation. It does not need to be only in cloud, but it can be done for on-prem too. Obviously, the implementation detail would be little differently done. So talking about a disaster, it is a serious disruption. Anything which is not working, anything which is causing complicated issue in your business, that is considered as a disaster. It is a serious disruption. Now, there is no quantifiable entity which says that, hey, I would qualify this as a serious. It purely depends on the business impact. So disaster is an unexpected problem resulting in a slowdown, could be interruption or network outage in an IT system. It could be categorized as natural disasters, or it could be technical disasters, or it could be human action which can create problem. So natural disaster, this is what most commonly people think of when they think of disaster, such as earthquake, flood, fire, and landslide. And then came technical disaster. What if there is a power outage into the whole area? My data center is not having a power at all, or the network cable got cut because of some road work going on, or maybe something happened. So all these things will be considered as the technical disaster which can bring down your application. Then it could be human action. You deployed a new version, you configured something, it didn't work as expected, and that can result into disaster. Lot of example exist in real life where a small issue cause a complicated problem or a very large scale problem. So we need to ensure that we are able to mitigate from all these type of things. So it could be a flooding happening into a data center, or maybe it is a network outage, or maybe having a code which is wrongly deployed or deployed with wrong settings. So these are common things which can be considered as a disaster. So how does disaster recovery work? We need to understand it. So it is a process of recovering from a disaster. It is basically following some pre-configured runbooks, as we call them, and that will help you to recover from those situations. Organization addresses the following three components. How it works? First thing is prevention. Obviously, we all heard prevention is better than cure. So rather than having an issue and then fixing it, how we can prevent that issue from happening at all. Second is we anticipate what could go wrong. Like you keep a spare wheel in your car, anticipating that one wheel will fail. It's not a guarantee that only one wheel will fail, but there is a most likely problem which you may face, that okay, one of the wheel is flat or one of the tire is flat and I may have to replace it. But it is not guaranteeing that you would not have more than one flat tire, right? So anticipation of what most common things can happen, and then if it happens, we would be then mitigating it. So these are the three things which organization need to focus on. Preventing it first in first place. What could be the reason? Like maybe we run or we build our data center in such a places which is not flood prone, right? Or which is not having a likelihood of having earthquake into history. So that can be preventive mechanism. Or maybe I host my application into a data center which has power supply from two different provider, or it has two different network connectivity. So that can be a preventive mechanism I could have expected. Anticipation could be, okay, maybe I am anticipating that a developer may make a mistake and then deploy a code which can create problems. So maybe I could anticipate it and then try to mitigate it by doing beta testing, or maybe doing some canary type of testing and then only rolling the whole thing into production. So that's I'm anticipating. And if it happened, if the code got released, if there was an issue into production, how we can quickly restore it. Maybe one of my data center is down, how we can switch operation to another data center. That is what mitigation would mean. So you would need to focus on prevention, anticipation, and mitigation. We will focus a little bit on disaster recovery and availability. They both sound similar, but they are different. So disaster recovery can be compared to availability, which is another important component of your resiliency strategy. So you are building basically a resilient infrastructure or resilient application. So availability is a component of resilient strategy. Whereas disaster recovery, major objective of one-time event, availability objective, mean value over a period of time. So most of the time disaster recovery is for a one-time event which may happen. I don't expect my data center to flood every single day. If this is happening, probably there is something very wrong with the design I have created. So that's where we would focus on one-time event, and then we would ensure that we can have availability for our application much faster. So when we talk about resiliency is considered into two aspects of the application. One is disaster recovery. If something goes wrong, how I can recover from it, and that is measured through something called RPO and RTO. We'll explain that. And then availability, which is quantifiable through mean time between failure or mean time to recover, right? So that is what disaster recovery is. We ensure that if something goes wrong, how soon we can recover and how much minimal data loss we can incur because of that particular disaster. And that culminates into RTO and RPO. So join me into next lecture where we'll talk about RPO and RTO.